Gabriela, hey, congratulations and thank you for talking to us for Acapulco season two.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited.
Obviously, I mean it's already been I want to say what 10 days, a week already, and how's the reaction so far that you found out?
It feels like a whirlwind. First of all, because it doesn't even feel real. It's like, is this really happening? And I think it doesn't. Part of what adds to it not feeling real and feeling like a dream is that the episodes are coming out even better and bigger than I thought they would. Everybody's loving the show. Everybody's saying that the second season is bigger and better and bolder than the first, and with a lot more heart. And I think it just is because like the family is getting bigger and stronger and the characters are just, everybody, all the actors on set are getting to know themselves really well through these characters. So it's
Yeah,
good.
that is good. So tell us what initially attracted you to a project like Acapulco.
To be honest, 100%, it was hilarious. It was really, really, really funny. And it was my kind of comedy because it was a very heartfelt comedy and no one's making fun of anyone. But at the same time, it is the type of comedy that's pointing out a lot of idiosyncrasies or hypocrisies or whatever within the Latin community, within Americans in Mexico, etc. That would be number one. It was just hella funny. But number two, and maybe even first and foremost, it's bilingual. And that's how my brain functions. I'm constantly jumping from Spanish to English, and I love both languages, and that's where I feel comfortable. So to see on the big screen characters who were speaking both, it was so refreshing. It felt like home.
Now, how do you describe your character, Isabella, and this series?
Um, she's such a badass. That's always the first way I describe her. But what I really think makes her a badass is she knows exactly who she is and she's happy with it. She's happy with exploring herself and making mistakes. And what I always like to tell people when they ask me, like, who is Isabel? I always think that she's just like, it's gonna sound messed up, but the genuine one of the characters. Because in Las Colinas, it's such a glamorous hotel where everybody's kind of putting on a mask and trying to be cool. And Isabel is not that. Isabel she is who she is. She doesn't wear a mask. She walks the walk and talks the talk. And I think that's really refreshing.
Now, of course, Acapulco this season has, I want to say, plenty of romance going around. How do you like the role of, being a love interest to someone in a series like this?
I've loved it. It's just so fun. I mean, it's honestly the reason why I became an actress was romantic comedies. I love a rom-com. I love a chick flick. I love my Julia Roberts, my Meg Ryans. I just love watching people fall in love on screen. And if it's funny as well, I love it even more. And I love myself a good love triangle. And Isabel happens to be, unbeknownst to her, part of one. But what I love the most about being a romantic interest, and what I was a fan of the show in season one, and I was a huge fan of Maximo and the actor who plays him. And I just thought, how much fun is it going to be to play the romantic counterpart of Maximo? He seems like such a cool dude and such a down to earth. Because you can have a romantic interest who, like, off screen, you're like, he's an egotistical SOB or whatever, or he's not funny, or he's not. And Enrique, who plays Maximo, and Maximo, the character, they're both just so fun and loving and full of life. So it really wasn't hard. And with the writing that we have, it was not hard to fall in love, with the characters.
It's funny is because you say unbeknownst, but I find your character to be highly intelligent and very aware of what's going on.
She is. I think Isabel, I mean, she's aware of what's going on, but at the same time, because she tells it like it is, I think she expects that kind of behavior from everybody else. Little does she know that, like, Maximo and Julia are not on that same page and they're not really even being honest with themselves. So I think when Isabel starts catching on into maybe something else is going on that no one's being honest with, she's smart, but she's also like, I'm gonna let them tell me at their time what this is, and I'm not gonna make assumptions, which is also what I love about her.
Now, personally, is this character highly relatable? I figure you probably had your own ups and downs of love comedy in your whole life.
100% my love life is comical. I made one big comedy out of it. No, I'm kidding. No, I'm not even kidding. It is really relatable because, well, Isabel is kind of the girl that I always want to be, or always strive to be, because she, like I said before, she just is who she is. And I think that's so sexy and attractive, and she's a go-getter, but she's also just, she doesn't want what doesn't want her. And I think you'll see it in the show. She's not really going to go after or hunt down or convince someone who isn't, it needs to be convinced. And so I think that I love about Isabel, but what I also love about Isabel is that she's so freaking fun. And when it comes to my romantic life, especially heartbreak, I really try to have fun and make fun of it. And I think you just have to laugh at romance sometimes, or at heartbreak sometimes.
I read your mini biography. You even made a podcast about, is it love or heartbreak? What kind of podcast is this?
It's a little bit of both. It's actually a bilingual podcast. So I really am a fan of bilingual content, aka Acapulco. But it's a bilingual content that's literally based, it's a podcast I made with a girlfriend of mine who I met through our ex-boyfriends. Our ex-boyfriends were friends and they introduced us. And our relationships didn't last, but our friendship like stood the test of time. And I thought there were a lot of funny lessons and good lessons that came from our breakups. And B, I wanted to share that with like a wider audience, because I feel like a lot of girls don't get to have those girlfriends who give you those wise words when you need them. So that was kind of the basis of it. I swear to God, it was not to trash ex-boyfriends. I think our ex-boyfriends were like freaking out. But it was really about like, okay, what can we learn from this? Which is such an Isabel take, not to like give myself kudos, but it was such an Isabel take, like what can we get out of this that's actually positive. But it's funny because after every single breakup I've had is when like my creative spurts have come, and I've written so many breakup sketches and shot so many breakup sketches, because I think that the behavior that comes with romance and breakups is hilarious and we can all relate to it. So I definitely connect to the topic.
Wow, it's like you're really living that life of Isabel in an
Oh
own way.
yeah. I tell people all the time, like, I'm Isabel. I don't know about the stealing, but I have gone to one other, veggie grill and grabbed a little bit of a drink of a juice that I didn't pay for. Those little exciting things. But I have a lot of Isabel in me for sure.
Now, you mentioned several times about being bilingual, and that you love this bilingual role. How does that work out on a production set like this? Switching back and forth from English to Spanish.
It's funny because for me it's so seamless. It's almost hard to stick to one language. Like I didn't even notice until I started being in surroundings where I could only speak English or I could only speak Spanish, and I was like, damn, I'm so much smarter if I can switch back and forth. I'm funnier when I can switch back and forth. So for me it felt really comfortable. I do think Isabel, she does speak a little bit of English on the show, but she is a proud Acapulqueña. She, doesn't conform to the system. So she gets to really get away with mainly speaking Spanish on the show. So I actually thought that was really cool about her. But yeah, to me, it just feels absolutely seamless. I love it. Talking to our directors and then talking to the crew and talking to both in English and Spanish was really fun.
It's funny is because I honestly I can't tell people's Spanish accents. I'm gonna have to ask my Mexican friends how authentic your Mexican how authentic was your Mexican accent on a show like this.
It's funny because I'm Honduran Venezuelan. I'm half Honduran, half Venezuelan. My dad's from Honduras, my mom Venezuela. I did grow up in Latin America, so Spanish, is my mother tongue, and I went to school in Spanish. But I'm not Mexican. But what's funny is even throughout the tests, like I did a chemistry read with Enrique, who plays Maximo, and I tricked him. He thought I was Mexican, and they asked him like, "What do you think about her Mexican accent?" And he's like, "I wonder why they're asking, because she's Mexican." But he was like, she has a great accent, except it's a little snobby. Like she sounds like a little bit like a snooty Mexican girl. So maybe we can ground her a little bit." And it's funny because I grew up watching Mexican soap operas. Like in Latin America, Mexico makes our top tier soap operas, Televisa, like the big studio in Mexico. So I only knew how to do the Mexican snobby accent because everybody who's into soap opera is like the rich, heiress or, the snooty high school girl. So I knew the Mexican accent pretty well, but it was snobby. I did have a coach who helped me, but I think what the directors and producers really wanted me to take home with me, they were like, listen, we want you to have fun. And for us, yes, it's important to have the Mexican accent, but at the end of the day, what really, really is important for us is for you to be having fun, for you to bring life to this character, bring, your spice to Isabel. And we don't want you to be worrying about like whether your accent is perfect, because that'll take away from the fun that this character is.
Well, you should be proud that you fooled the. You should be proud that you fooled hopefully a lot of Mexicans about this.
We'll see. Listen, I'm happy to be put to the test because I always say like I'm an honorary Mexican because I love Mexico. I go there all the time. My next door neighbors in Honduras were Mexican, so I get it. Like I get you got to be protective about your culture, but yeah, we'll see what they think.
Well, I mean, your character is so rooted in Mexican. I mean, she works in a Mexican food restaurant.
Pozole. We make pozole. That's like our specialty, which is such a Mexican dish. Yeah. And she's tight with her family, which I mean, that's Mexican, but I think it's just Latin American in general. We share a lot of the same values, which is another reason why I feel so connected to her. Even though I'm not Mexican, I think what's cool about Acapulco is that we have kind of no borders or no countries. And what I love even about the language is that both comedy, but also heartfelt messages translate to any language, any country. It doesn't matter where you're from, whether you're from Venezuela, Honduras, Mexico, El Salvador, it's all one language, all one love,
So much Pasoles on the show or references to it. Is that your favorite Mexican food, or you like something else?
I think pozole is probably my favorite. I would have to say pozole, and then everything having to do with tortillas, because in Honduras, tortillas are a really big deal. But I would say pozole is my favorite just because it's like such a warm hug to your heart. There's this place in Mexico City that I love going to called Casa Toño, and they have it all over the city, and it's open till like 4 a.m. It's amazing, or I think it's 24 hours. And after like a night of dancing or a late night, I would order that pozole and it's so freaking good. And it's such a hug to your heart. I swear to God, like I order it every time I go to Mexico. I love pozole. So yeah, I guess I am pretty connected to Isabel. Yeah.
That is great. I mean, I have a goddaughter from Ecuador, and they don't have tacos or burritos or South America. People tend to forget like South America is like totally different when it comes.
I mean, it's delicious all the same. I love Peru. I've been to Peru a bunch, and I love their cuisine. But yeah, the tortillas are not that big a deal over there.
I know. I can't wait to meet my goddaughter. She just moved to the United States for college, so I am really hoping that her English will be as good as yours.
Oh, thank you. It takes a while. It takes a while, but practice makes perfect.
Absolutely. Now, now this is technically a guest recurring role. How did you enjoy that experience? Because it's not a guest role where you're just in one episode. It's a recurring role for the entire season. So you play a major part.
Right. I always like to say Isabel is kind of like the catalyst that comes in to magnify and to just kind of like take Maximo and Julia's relationship to another level, kind of put it to the test. But also kind of like for Maximo and Julia fans to just be like, oh, wow, there's another flavor here that's not Chad. What are we going to do with that? Or what's going to happen there? And so I was really honored to have that, like as a guest role, but it's a 9-episode, I'm in a lot of the show. I think it was like two-faced. One, I was like, oh my God, I'm not technically part of this family, but I'm also obsessed with Acapulco and I feel like I'm part of this family, which I have to commend like the cast and crew. they were so unbelievably welcoming to me. They did not make me feel like you're a guest star and you're only here for 9 episodes. They were open arms from day one, came to see me to my room, to my hotel room, like, welcome, we're so excited to have you, you're another sister, every single one of them. They came in as a group and surprised me, and so that for me took a lot of the weight off, but also a lot of the responsibility on, because I really, really wanted to contribute to the show because I was already such a fan of the show. I didn't want to, like, quote unquote, ruin it. And I think part of what makes it, being a guest star, so cool is that I get to be this kind of fangirl, but also character at the same time, and just root for them, root for the cast, because they created something so unbelievably special that even to be a part of it for one season or for a few episodes, or whatever it is, 9 episodes, it's just such an honor. I don't think characters like Isabel come once in a gazillion years, so to be able to play her for a season was so cool. I hope I did her justice.
Is this your first like major like extended role?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, definitely. That's why it was so overwhelming, because I was like, wait, it's a show that I love. It literally felt meant to be. It felt so aligned because we are so similar, and the message of the show is so aligned to who I am. So it made a lot of sense that she would be my first major girl to play.
Wow, that is awesome to hear. And how did you get into acting in the first place? You always wanted to be an actor?
Oh, always. It's so cheesy to say, like, I was born for this, but I was. It was written in the stars. I literally remember, I think it hit me when I was like, I lived in New Orleans. I was born in New Orleans, and I had just seen, I think it was The Little Mermaid, and I just assumed you could be a princess as like a career. Like, you could go to school and you would graduate and become a princess. And when I realized that wasn't it, like, I always say the story, but it's just true. Like, I remember being like, wait, what? Like, you can't be a princess? And then I was like, okay, acting is my second best choice. And from then on, I mean, I think I was like 6 years old. I wrote a play. I couldn't even write, but I wrote a play and I cast my neighbors in it. My mom was my prop master. And from then on, it's just like, I haven't stopped. And growing up in Honduras, acting is not really a career that anybody encourages or that your parents even take seriously. So to have a family that was so supportive was really, really, really special, I have to say.
So after this experience, what kind of roles do you seek now?
Well, it's crazy because the bar has been set so high. Like, I always tell, Chris, our showrunner, and create, like, one of the writers, and Austin, our creator, and Jason, Eduardo, everybody. I'm always like, thank you so much for writing me. Like, thank you so much for writing Isabel, because seriously, the bar has been set so high. I don't know what kind of roles I would look at and be as happy to play. But I will say it's really inspiring because, again, because the bar has been set so high, I think it just goes to show that there are roles that Latina actresses can play, that women of color can play, that are leading ladies. Because Isabella is a leading lady in her own right. She's just a feisty character with a lot of energy. And there are stories that are always worth telling, like the narco's girlfriend, the drug trafficker's girlfriend, or the prostitute. And those, yeah, they're stories that are worth telling, but there's so many more colors and stereotypes and facets to us that I think, if anything, it's given me more hope to play women who are not just kind of filling a gap on a show, but really multi-dimensional, funny, cool characters. And I think that's why I'm so excited about the content that I create and want to create, because I want to see more women that look like me and act like me on screen.
Well said, well said. And one thing before I leave, I forgot to ask you is, do you treat this as a workation? I mean, I didn't really look up the production notes where it was filmed or anything. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, it was probably not even filmed in Acapulco. It was probably like, Miami or Hawaii, because they're all tropics.
Well, it's funny because we always say, like, Acapulco is a feeling. It's the family. It's Las Colinas. It's not really a location, but we did shoot on a beach in Mexico in Puerto Vallarta, which was stunning. And talk about setting the bar high. Like, what am I going to do? I was going to the beach every day after work. Like, I would just take the elevator and I was downstairs in hair and makeup. Like, I was hella spoiled. Like, this was ridiculous. And we always say it's like living at summer camp. We would have breakfast, lunch, and dinner together. We'd go to the pool together. We were family for 3 months. So the like workation doesn't even do it justice. It was so fun. I would leave my room, and I called leaving my room the vortex, going into the vortex, because you just didn't know at what time you were going to come back to your hotel room, because you would bump into people and everybody's so warm, and you'd go on a taco adventure or this or that. So yeah, I think that's why you see so much happiness on screen, because we're really, really having a fun time, an amazing time off screen.
That is terrific. I mean, you are an amazing conversationalist. I I completely understand why you have a podcast and I don't. But but
Never say never. Never say never, Gig.
well, I I'm just under the assumption I don't have as many breakups. That's all.
No,
Lack
there's
of
a lot of
experience.
them. I have a long history. Thank you so much, Gig. That's a really great compliment. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, Gabriella. And you know what? I can't wait to see what's your next project you jump into. But you're right. You set the bar really high because you did amazingly well with this.
Oh, thank you, Gig. That's so lovely of you to say. Thank you so much. And I hope you've enjoyed the show, what you've watched, and you get to continue enjoying it, because we made it with a lot of love.
I know. I already binged through season two, even though they're just releasing one episode at a time. So I kind of know I know what actually happened, but spoiler free, of course.
We won't, yeah. We'll leave it spoiler free.
All right. Thank you, Gabriella. Hopefully we get to do this again.
Yes, hopefully soon. Thank you so much. It was nice meeting you.
Thank you. Bye now.
Bye.